All right. Basic gist of this week one of quarter two is trying to have you look at what you pay attention to while you're doing stuff and when you're not doing stuff and how that changes. So if I were to quickly share screen, okay. First question I said is rest is typically the time I stop paying attention. Most of you do. Now, as I or report you do, but if I flip it back to you and I say, what do you pay attention to? You are paying attention to stuff, whether it be a show or a movie. So I want you to kind of bridge this understanding that even though I'm resting, I typically still want mental stimulation, whether that be watching a show, listening to something, even looking around my room. So even though my body is physically resting, my brain very often is still trying to work, still trying to be stimulated. Okay, so it's a really big piece here. Now, when I say, hey, what do you pay attention to when you're resting? I put and awake because I didn't want you to go into sleep. Because ideally, when you're asleep, you're not paying attention to anything. Your body is within itself, taking care of itself. Okay. But look at these kind of things: phone, breathing, not sure, my surroundings. Think of that alert versus that alarm. I'm trying to solve problems. I'm reflecting this thing I have to do or had to do. And I'm so curious when you say space and in space, like, do your eyes literally roll back in the back of your head? What does zone? Because when you zone out, you think about something, right? Like you don't just become unplugged and then plug back in. So this idea of spacing out, I'm someone who is not used to spacing out. I tend to be focused and jump around. So does anyone have any insight as to what they're actually thinking about and doing when they space out? Is it literally like their system goes on pause? And remember, I can't have the chat up on when I'm sharing screen. So if you have any insight, please use your mic. No clarification? It's okay. I know things get weird when I record. Just something I'm curious about if it comes to you. What I'm doing tomorrow? Again, how often do we sacrifice right now for later? Organizing, focusing. Next question. I am working, active, exercising more than I am resting. Okay. My guess was that this would be almost all of you, that this would be, that most of this would be red. But there's quite a bit of blue saying, yeah, I am doing more than I am resting. So you got to think, if there's a 24 hours in the day, that means you are actively doing, not doing and stopping and doing and breaking and doing and pausing and skipping around, but you're actively doing 12 plus hours a day. That is very surprising to me. And I had someone in second period give a really good answer because she was one that said, yeah, I'm doing more than I'm resting. But what she said, which was right on the nose, was I pay more attention to when I am doing stuff. So it seems that I am always doing stuff, right? I'll say this twice. What you pay attention to shapes your reality. It's like the phone. If I am only looking at negative things and how bad the world is, that's what the reality is going to be. If I only look at things that show me that our puppies and kindness, that's what I'm going to think the world is. Right? So our attention shapes our perception. Keep that in the back of your mind. Next two questions were contradictory. Okay. The smaller and simpler the movement, the easier it is to notice details. I would agree if that's true, right? If I'm going to learn how to hammer a nail, how do you hold it? What's the pressure? How do you line it up? Versus how to build a house, I will probably learn how to hammer a nail easier than all the million pieces of building a house. Okay, so the smaller and simpler something is, the more I can recognize it. Also think of a dance move. If it's 2 steps, you'll probably get it. If it's 37 steps with spins and twists and claps, it might be a little bit more harder. And again, you will naturally gravitate towards where challenge and attention meet. So right on that line. The second one is saying, during really intense movement, I am able to pay attention to how I am doing something. Right? More said that. More 70, almost 78% said during intense movement. And my question back is, how in the world is that possible? Example. If I am doing my best mile, right? I'm timing myself. Let me see how fast I can go. That last 200 meters, I am going to be wishing for life. All I'm going to be focused on is getting past that finish line as quickly as possible. I am not going to have the bandwidth. What's my breathing like? What are my steps like? What are my arms doing? What's my rhythm? What's my cadence? How hard is my foot? All those things. Where's my head? I am not going to have the bandwidth for, because I'm literally just trying to finish the thing. If you're doing one of these crazy intense workouts, that is time, and you got to go as much as possible for time. You don't have the freshness and the energy bandwidth to pay attention to all the things. Okay? Does that clarify this? And do you agree with me, or am I still wrong? Give you a moment. Right? So the more intense, the more I struggle to do it, the less I am typically able to pay attention to how. Okay, I'll move on. We understand breathing is important to pay attention to. But again, how are you paying attention? That's coming. Posture is important to pay attention to. Yes? What about posture? When are you paying attention? Lastly, I can explain what position means. This is going to be clarified a lot more next week in our 2 days before Thanksgiving. And my final question, and I'll stop sharing so maybe you can type it, is, what do you think position means? You could type it or you could say it. Can anyone take a stab at it? Like right now, however you are, if you were to describe your position, position, P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N. Yes. So if I were to ask you to, hey, describe your position, you would probably say, I'm laying, I'm sitting, I'm kneeling, I'm on my belly. That's position, right? If I were to say, what's your posture like, where would you typically look?
The way you're doing something.
So, but which part of your body would you look at with position? I'm sorry, with posture. With posture, where do we typically look?
Overall.
Overall. So if I was looking at a guy and I'm like, man, that guy has really bad posture, would I be looking at his shoes or his feet?
No.
I would be looking typically this kind of chest area, because we tend to know that this rounded over, hunched over, typically is a negative thing. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. However, when I need a lot of air, right, when I'm out of breath, don't I get in that position?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to kind of shift what we think of good and bad and look at what is on that. But generally speaking, the big deterrent is posture is your positional default. When you're not paying attention, how you hold yourself. Okay. General idea that I want you to kind of sit with.
Wait, can you please repeat?
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. Posture is how you hold yourself when you're not paying attention. So posture is your default. Default means basically where your home base. So if I was rounded, for example, that's my default. And then I do an exercise and I get out of that default, my posture and position is changed. But unless when I'm stopped exercising, if I do my exercise and I go right back into that rounded posture, wasn't effective. So posture is your default position. And position is any joint anywhere. So right now, I'm changing my arm position, but my posture isn't changing. Now I can change my posture with position, but they don't necessarily go hand in hand. Posture is that rest stance when you're not paying attention. So if you are a person typically who is walking along, then you see yourself in a window and are like, oh, and then you adjust, you tend to have quote unquote bad posture or posture you don't like. When you're conscious of it, you change it. But posture is your home default position. Is that small thing clear?
Yeah.
Okay, I have one from Josh. Jasmine saying hello. Anybody else but Josh can confirm that that has made a little bit more sense to you? Yes, thank you, Jordan. Oh, super okay. Alex, feel free to. I'm going to stop this recording real quick.